It's heavy and it's complicated, and everyone affected has a different experience. This is mine. I wish I could say when it happened, when someone died on my account, that it gave me this grand appreciation for life. But it didn't. Things don't always happen the way you think they will. Life isn't that simple, and you don't always learn the lessons or see the positive in things right away. Sometimes it takes time. I was 19 years old with the girl's death on my hands, and I'm going to do my best to give you a very condensed version of how I felt and what I went through after. I felt guilt. Even though what happened was an accident, it was still my fault. Because of me, a loved one was taken from so many people, and that's a burden that I rightfully have to bear the rest of my life. I felt frustrated that out of all the sketchy and dangerous situations I've been in, this was the one to end tragically. And it wasn't my life, it was someone else's. I felt stripped. I was young and I didn't know who I was before the accident, and so after, my identity became someone responsible for someone's death. This one's hard to admit, but I'm here to be honest with you guys. I felt jealous. Jealous that my wounds couldn't be seen. I came out of the accident with just a tiny cut on my knee, and so I had no physical injuries, but I was still wounded. I was still hurting. And at times I would even wish I had some sort of illness or injury so that people could visually see the pain I was going through. And it's a strange feeling. I felt ashamed for feeling jealous. How silly was it for me to want to be injured? Someone had died and someone was very severely injured, and I'm sitting here wishing I was in that situation. Looking back, I can see I felt jealous because I wanted and needed love and attention that I just didn't know how to give myself. I felt suicidal. I was going to leave this one out because for me it was a very brief moment. And it's one of those things that you don't think could ever happen to you or you could ever feel that way, and then it does. And even just in that brief moment, I could feel and I could understand how quickly you can spiral. I remember that moment. I was in my bedroom. I had gotten off the phone with my boyfriend. We had probably gotten in a fight or something. And I just remember going down this rabbit hole of, I'm a horrible person. If he doesn't love me or he doesn't think I'm a good person, then no one does. And I don't deserve to be here. And I don't know what got me out of that because it was very brief. It was just a moment, but I didn't get out of that moment for me. I got out of that moment because leaving this earth was not an option, and it would not be fair to my friends and family and my mother. I felt a lot of things. I felt like a bad person. I felt like it should have been me. And it was a lot of negative emotions. I didn't know who I was, and so I was a made-up version of other people's words and what other people thought about me, which also meant that one word, one bit of negativity, one breakup had the ability to just completely crumble me. The person who passed, I didn't know her very well, and I didn't have a very strong connection to her, I didn't have memories to look back on of us together. This is not at all to compare my grief to others, just to say that it was different. In that, usually when you lose someone, you grieve for that person. It almost becomes tunnel visioned. I ended up feeling lost in terms of where to focus my grief. For me, I didn't just grieve her passing and her loss. I grieved for her family, for her friends, for her partner, for the situation as a whole. Since I was responsible, my grief had layers. With that grief, I felt sad. And if I could only choose one word to describe how I felt, how I feel, and my experience, it was sadness. And I just really felt consumed with sadness. Even now, just thinking of her life and her friends and family and everyone affected, it's just sad. My heart sincerely aches for all the people who were affected and whose lives were changed to securing past memories with her instead of making new ones. So, life after. For about a year after the accident, I became very comfortable with the idea of dying. And not that I wanted to die, but just when I would drive anywhere, I would picture myself being sideswiped or in a car accident and being okay with it and just kind of accepting that that would be my karma. For about 4 to 5 years after, my life was an autopilot. It was kind of an autopilot before, but it continued. And, I stayed productive. I worked 3 jobs. I even applied to school and I finished and I got a diploma. But everything that I was doing was just to get by. It was doing the bare minimum to live. I wasn't living to live a happy and intentional life because I didn't think I deserved that. I don't want to get too off topic, but I want to share with you one of the moments in my life where I had one of those aha moments where I started to see a little bit of potential for a better life and that I might deserve one. I was in a very toxic relationship for about 3 years after the accident, and fast forward to year 3, we were separated for about a month and I was starting to feel more confident. I was starting to be okay with being alone and starting to be proud of that. And then I got sucked back in. He heard that I was going on a trip with my friends. We continued to date for a few months after, and he had convinced me that going on this trip wouldn't be appropriate because there were guys. And so I didn't go. And a week after the trip passed, he broke up with me. I wanted to share it with you because I think specifically romantic relationships really have the ability to drastically control your life or change your life positively or negatively. The relationship was completely designed as what he wanted in a relationship, not what I wanted, because I didn't know what I wanted. Since I felt like I deserved so little, that's what I got. They say it's like a switch flipping, and missing that trip was my switch flipping. Once I decided that I deserved better and was worthy of a better life, things just started to roll into place. I quit smoking almost immediately after. I moved out. I applied for a program in school that I actually had a passion for, and I wasn't just doing it to make money. I slowly started to discover my standards for relationships, and I started to discover who I was, what my values were, and what I wanted in life. This all really happened subconsciously, but after my mindset started to change and I started to feel like I deserved better, the way I talked to myself started to change. I stopped talking to myself in past tense, such as, what if? All the should have, could have, would have, the buts. We can't time travel. We can't undo the past, and wasting my time thinking about it and staying in this negative space did nothing for myself or the people around me. And quite frankly, when I realized this, that I was in this negative space, it felt like an insult to the person who passed away, because I know for sure that if she was here on this earth, then she would be living a positive life and putting positive energy out. So my mind started to change all my questions to the future. How can I use my experience to help others? What can I learn from this? How can this make me a better person? What do I want my life to look like? What can I do to try and honor this person's life? I was very lucky in terms of the support that I received. I can only imagine the automatic animosity people had towards me because of what happened. I've run into her friends multiple times. There's a lot of them. But regardless of how they might feel towards me, they have never been anything but gracious and kind. And if you are one of them watching, thank you. And it does not go unnoticed or unappreciated. Her family, specifically her mother, has shown me the true meaning of kindness, and I don't even have words to describe, but I feel very blessed to have her support. My friends and family were supportive, but it's hard, I don't want to talk about things, and what do you say to someone? But having them there, knowing I could talk to them, was enough. If you are in a similar situation, please go see a therapist. That's one thing I do wish that I would have done or would have been pushed into, is seeing a therapist. I was talking to myself so negatively, and, your friends and family can say the nicest things about you, but you think at the time they just say it, well, because they love you. Seeing a therapist, even if you don't want to talk, it starts to put more positive words into your brain from a person that is unbiased. I also wanted to mention, we're in an age where news is posted online, and that means there's a comment section. I never really had a bad experience. Any comment is hard to read, but I can't remember any that were that inappropriate. I can only imagine others in similar situations may not have it so easy, and it's very easy to be cruel in the comments. And I think especially if you're an adult, and especially if you're commenting on an article about someone younger than you and someone more impressionable, just please be aware of your comments and really question if they're going to do more harm than good. I still feel everything that I felt before, all the same emotions. I just don't let them dictate my life. I don't let them consume me, and I make more space for positive feelings. My new word to describe this experience is grateful. I feel grateful for the person it's helped me become. I was so young, and I was set on autopilot before the accident, and so even though it still took me years to get out of it, it likely would have taken me a lot longer to start living my life if this didn't happen. I feel grateful for the role model that she is to me. She lived her life so fully at such a young age, traveling and having such a positive light, and it is something to look up to. I feel grateful for the support um, from her mother, her friends, her family, my friends, my family, for people who helped me during the accident, lawyers, everybody. I feel very grateful. I will always be growing and learning, but I feel so much more confident in who I am as a person and what I want my life to look like. I mean, this was 9 years ago, and Change doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. Once you decide and once you get on that path of living your life, every single day gets better and you learn something new about yourself. And if you allow it, you'll become the best version of yourself. So, what does it mean, being responsible for someone's death? It's meant different things for me. In the beginning, it meant that I was a bad person and that I didn't deserve to live a happy life. My gift was that I'm alive, that I'm here, and I wasn't allowed to ask for anything more than that. It means something different to me now. Now it means that I hold myself to a certain standard of how I want to live my life and what kind of person that I want to be. It means I can own up to my mistakes and be accountable for my actions. It means learning lessons from everything in life and choosing to live in a positive way and seeing situations and people in a positive light. It means that moving forward doesn't mean that I'm forgetting what happened. It means I'm responsible for my own life and that I'm responsible for making sure I live it. My life and who I am is no longer based on other people's words or acknowledgement or approval because I do it all for myself now. I choose to live life intentionally and with purpose. And that might look like going on as many trips as I can with whomever I want. My message to you, if you're watching this and you're also responsible for someone's death, I see you and I feel you. And I can tell you up and down that you're worthy of a good life, of a better life. But that won't change anything. You need to tell yourself. And so I want to challenge you, or anyone who's watching this, for 1 month, every morning when you wake up, I want you to say 3 things you're grateful for, and I want you to go look in the mirror and tell yourself something you love about yourself, even if you don't believe it. And if you can't think of one, then just say this: I am beautiful or handsome, and I am worthy of living my happiest life. I promise you, you just have to fake it until you make it. And eventually, if you keep repeating it, if it's for a year, if you have to do it, but you will believe it at some point. If you're watching this and you knew the person that passed away, I am deeply sorry. And I'm sorry it took me this long to say it. I learned a lot. Even just writing this script, I learned so much about myself. And I wanted to share one with you. Don't wait for a tragedy to happen to live your life with purpose. And lastly, if we could all do this, please go and tell your loved one that you love them. Thank you for watching and for letting me share my experience with you.